Hello bass family and welcome to Everything Bass. Well, we're continuing on with this series and it's a little different because instead of giving you exactly what to play or give you an exercise with a certain theoretical concept, I wanted to give you a research project. And let me give you a little background on this. So when I started at Musicians Institute, I didn't know anything about jazz. I was a decent player, but I mostly grew up playing in bars, playing rock, blues, some funk. So jazz was new to me. And I kept talking to instructors because I was understanding the harmony and theory of it all, like what the arpeggios were, what the scales were. I listened to a lot of jazz, but I was having a hard time improvising, coming up with bass lines. And instructors kind of figured out right away that I was memorizing a bass line for a certain, like say at Autumn Leaves or something, and every time it would repeat to the top I would just play the same bass line, and that's not the way to really do it. It was safe, but it wasn't fun for me, and it wasn't fun for the audience. It wasn't fun for anybody involved. The idea is being able to create on the fly, and that's actually addicting, and when you can do it, it's the best feeling in the world. And it's attainable. It really is. It's just understanding like what scales and arpeggios go to what chords, and having, you know, open ears, listening to jazz. But the one element I was missing in my early days was really researching what other players had done before me, the legends and icons. So actually a couple instructors suggested this, but it wasn't until like I started getting it as like from many sources that I actually did it, and it was important. And what I'm talking about is creating a 2-5-1 journal. Now this could also be, you know, for other progressions, but it was explained to me, and it's true, that in a lot of music, the 2-5 progression is very, very common. And in jazz, you find 2-5-1s and 2-5s all over the place. So being able to create a journal where you like gather up like you create some of your own and write them down so you don't forget them. But the best thing is listen to players who've come before you, jazz players you really respect, and learn like even just a section, just a little section. And there's a lot of resources online where you don't even have to know how to transcribe or develop your ear to transcribe. You can actually just, you know, download or find the chart and start looking for what the bass player played over 2-5s. Now we're talking today's lesson, because of the series, we're talking about just bass lines, not solos and stuff, but just right now limited to bass lines. So many players and instructors I really, really respected kept saying, create a 2-5-1 journal. And once I kind of figured out what it was, and with their help, I started doing that. So I started creating, I mean, here's a page, and I'll have this for my Patreon subscribers. You can have it on here. But basically, I would, you know, grab, we were able to go to the Musicians Institute library and sit down and listen to audio and watch videos of performers, and I would just sit and transcribe just a little section, and then add it to the journal, but then I'd go home and practice it in all 12 keys. So let me give you a couple examples and of how you do it. So the first, and I played this when the video started, but I'll do it right now for you. The first thing I start with, and we're doing this in the key of F, so we're doing G minor to C7 to F major, and that it could be anything. In fact, it's usually recommended that you do your 2-5-1 journal in the key of C, just because it's easier to, there's no sharps and flats unless you of course play an accidental. But I decided, I don't know, I decided to do it in F. Anyway, so the first measure on the G minor, and again, I got this from somebody. It's been so long and I'm old, so I can't remember. But I just start playing the root, the minor third, the perfect fifth, and then because my next chord is C, I'm on D, the next chord's on C, I just play a chromatic D flat to the C. So I play this. Now let me play it with my loop. So pretty simple little walk down. Super easy to memorize, super easy to transpose to other keys. Think about it this way. I'm playing basically a G minor triad. Now I should say, and hopefully by now in the series you understand, if you don't know your arpeggios, don't freak out. Just go to my channel and look, and there'll be, I believe I created a playlist for arpeggio studies where I teach you what all the triads are, the seventh chords, the most common seventh chords, and that you can actually, learn those first and understand. In fact, do the interval studies. I created 6 videos for the 12 diatonic, or not diatonic, the 12 intervals between a root and octave. So get that background, and then things like this make sense. And honestly, it makes it so easy to transpose to other keys. So we've got this root, minor third, perfect fifth, chromatic down to the root. Now, what do I do for the C7? C7, I play a triad also. So I've got a little theme going. I play a C major triad, and I do a chromatic down to the F. So that's a theme, and I'm sure I just took it from some bass player I listened to, but it's so super simple. So you play a minor triad for the G minor, chromatic walk down to the C major, C dominant, sorry, play a C major triad, chromatic walk down to the F. Now when I get to F major, I just walk down the scale to the fifth. So I go the octave, major 7, major 6, perfect fifth. Then I jump to the root, F, the low F, go open E, which is the major 7, F, and now chromatic back to the G. So that sounds like this. So you hear that? So that's the importance and the value of creating this 251 journal, is by doing that kind of study, not just writing down the notes, or if you don't have a sight read, let's say you write down the tab. That's not enough, because tab, you're memorizing numbers. You're not memorizing like what is the relationship to the note you're playing to the chord, which makes it infinitely harder to transpose to other keys. And believe me, you're going to find 251s in every possible key if you're really studying jazz. And I know we're talking about walking lines, but you could do this for any style. If you're a blues player, just take a section of the progression of a 1-4-5 blues and start, listen to what Duck Dunn did on that, and all these great jazz players, and start transcribing out and enter them to journals. So you have this huge collection of ideas. Because really what improvisation starts as, I'll say starts as because there's a next level to it, but what it starts as is you taking all these little components you've learned in your studies and knitting them together in unique ways every time you play through the chart. So you might play this 251 example, but then next time it comes through, you'll play a different one, but you're just pulling them from resources. Later on, honestly, it becomes almost subconscious. You're not really thinking about it, you're just playing, and every once in a while you might go, oh, I want to do this theme or something, and you'll have the resources there. All right, back to this. Let me give you one more, and then like I said, if you're a Patreon subscriber, and the link will be in the description below if you want to become a Patreon subscriber. I've written out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 8 examples just to get you started, and hopefully so you'll find and create your own. All right, so the next one is one I really like, actually. Again, who knows where it came from. But on the G minor, I start by playing the root on 1. Then I play the A, which is the major 2nd. Now I play the minor 3rd, which is great because I've got on the strong beats, beat 1 and beat 3, I have the root and the minor 3rd. So the audience, whether they know music or not, the audience knows enough. Their subconscious tells them, oh, that's this G minor sound. They don't know it's G minor, but they can identify the sound. So you go up to that. So you're just walking up the scale at this point. Then you put a chromatic walk from below the C, a half step, the B. So you're going G, A, B flat, B, C. Very popular. I've seen it in so many different players' bass lines throughout multiple generations of players. So obviously, great one to do. It's very close, like the intervals are all close to each other, so it's got this certain kind of sine wave feel to it that's attractive. When you get to the C, instead of keeping it going up, changing directions. That's a way to keep the line very interesting. So I walk up to the C. Now it's a C dominant 7 chord, so I'm borrowing from C mixolydian. So I play C on the 1, the B flat, the major, dominant 7 or the flat 7 on beat 2, the open A, the major 6 on beat 3 to the G. So I'm just walking down mixolydian. If the C was my octave. Now I go to the F, and here, pretty simple. I just play a triad, the F major triad. And this is a device that through doing this process, I heard a lot of bass players do. When there's 2 measures of one chord, they'll start with the root on the first measure, jump to the octave, and just creates, instead of going back to the root, which could make it seem very redundant and a little tedious, just jumping to the octave. It's still the same pitch, or sorry, still the same interval, but you're up an octave. So it's a tonic up an octave, if you will. So on this one, you play the F major triad, jump up to the C, the F octave, then C, A, F. So you're kind of going down the major triad. So this is really 2 bars of a major triad. You know what? A thought popped in my head, because just then I was thinking, well, where did I get this one? And it's been literally 30 years since I've done this. So if you create your journal, don't make my mistake. Write the source. I think you'll find it interesting years down the line if you can go, oh, this was Ray Brown on such and such recording, such and such song. I wish I would have done that. I think that would be interesting now, because as you get more involved as a player, being able to look back and go, oh, that's a Ray Brown thing or something, I think is interesting. And why not? Gather as much information as possible. You know, I don't think there's too much information is going to hurt you as a player at all, unless, of course, you get paralyzed with information. You can't get stuck in research mode. You got to apply it at one point. So there's 2 examples. You know, I can help in any way in the comment section if there's something unclear, or you want maybe a starting point. I can suggest some recordings that I think are not only, you know, foundational jazz walking recordings, but are recorded in such a way you can really hear the bass. Yeah, I just think this is valuable for every player. Now, you notice it's a 2-5-1 journal, but you could also find other progressions you like. I've known players, I haven't done this one, but I've known players that took the first 4 bars of My Funny Valentine, where it starts with an octave in the high note, then it goes to major 7, then a minor 7, then major 6, and they wanted to find ways to do that. Now, likewise, you can make journals like this for soloing concepts. If you find that your soloing is becoming redundant, it just means that you're starting to kind of plagiarize yourself. So it's time to get other influences in. Some people say, well, I want to be completely unique. Well, I appreciate the sentiment, but I think the best way to be completely unique is study from as many resources as possible. You know, study from, like, especially when you're talking about soloing, piano players, sax players, guitar players, bass players, of course. And what's going to happen is your personality, your natural musical tendencies are going to draw differently from that collection of players than, say, another person. So you will end up being unique for how you knit those together and make this beautiful quilt of improvisation. All right, well, there you go. Creating a 2-5-1 journal. I mean it. If you have any questions, if you don't feel I've covered this well enough, please just hit me in the comments below. I'd love to go deeper with you. And give it a shot. It's a little bit of busy work, but it's so valuable. And I think you're going to find that within a short amount of time, you kind of become addicted to it. You will obviously start playing better. And then, again, years later, when you feel like you've gotten kind of stagnant in your playing, go back through the journal. See if you've kind of let some of the cool ideas slip away. They're not in your active bag of tricks. And it's just a way to stay fresh. It really is. So thank you so much, my sisters and brothers of bass. I really appreciate you coming by. Let me know what you think. Let me know other videos you'd like me to cover in the future, or the topics. And heck, I'll see you at the next video.